live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. We will unpause and repause it, of course, as usual. We got to talk about Dem hypocrisy. I realized that I made a video this morning on the subject, but it really bears mentioning more than once because it's so significant. The same party that told you the Republicans are trying to take your SNAP benefits away. Now they want to keep the SNAP benefits on hold because they're not getting exactly the deal that they wanted. So there's an element of hypocrisy there. We'll be exploring that. We've also got the tariff rebate check concept. This is something that's been optioned by Trump. The idea is that there's so much money coming in from tariffs. Why don't we just stimulate the economy by giving that money back to the people that actually deserve it? I'm amenable to this basic premise, although I would notice that past stimuli have not necessarily worked 100% because a lot of times people spend it on frivolous stuff. But, it is technically their money, so, that's just the way that it works. The Olympics are set to announce that transgender athletes are banned from all female events in 2028 games. I notice, by the way, talking about dichotomous gender, I notice that nobody has a problem with biological women competing in men's sports. I'm just going to point out the hypocrisy there. There's a little bit of it. It's definitely present. Ghislaine Maxwell gets concierge-style treatment at prison camp, whistleblower claims. According to a report, Epstein accomplice allegedly receives customized meals, puppy time, and after-hours gym access at Texas facility. There's a reason for this. A big glaring fucking reason, by the way. Supreme Court leans against Rastafarian man seeking to sue prison officials for cutting his dreadlocks. Now, this is a nuanced take. It has to do with a combination of prison etiquette, if you could call it that, and religious values versus the actual situation here, which it is really untenable. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we're going to get into that as well. Has America found its Mussolini in Mamdani? Short answer, no. Long answer, kind of. We'll get into that as well. Peru's Serpent Mountain sheds its mysterious path. Apparently, the holes that were dug in this particular region, they were due to it was basically for accounting purposes more than anything else. Like transactions would be put in an urn, sealed, and then buried actually for later use potentially. It's basically transactional in nature. So we do have quite a bit of news actually today, especially the Democrats' hypocrisy with regards to the shutdown. Again, I gleefully talked about it this morning because it's like, you people are nuts. And also you've painted yourselves into a corner. I don't think that you realize exactly how damaging this could potentially be. You win the battle, but you lose the war. Many such cases, the GOP is famous for doing this. Now the Democrats appear to be the ones that are doing so. So yeah, we've got quite a bit of news actually today. It's a snowy day. It's currently snowing. This is Vermont, so that happens on a regular basis in the middle of November. Very, very happy about that. I'm glad to know that in a few weeks I'll be shoveling snow on the reg. It's wonderful now, isn't it? We'll get to our sponsors as well, but first we got to get to the main news. So those are our news docketed stories of the day. Links in the description, archived, of course, for the main ones. We'll see how far we get through the other stories as well, of course. Snakes bleed red. Snowing? Where is the Avalon? It is not here, actually. It is elsewhere. Quinn Smith, wax up the skis. I never understood winter sports like skiing, snowboarding, stuff like that, unless it's snowshoeing. That's pretty fun. Cross-country skiing is all right as well, but downhill skiing and snowboarding and stuff like that, I never saw the entertainment value in that. Wow, I zoomed down this hill, possibly breaking a bone in the process. Now I get to go laboriously back up and do it again. To me, yeah, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Lemon curd sticks, we have a spammer. Many such cases. Oh god, Anton is already here? Whenever King of Biltong shows up, that means it's Bovrite time. You came in early today. Delicious. I'm probably gonna use some of this for some stuffed peppers. I'm thinking if you added that to a rice and then like fried it up a second time, I'm thinking that would probably be pretty good. Jeffsky, ice fishing is better. Yeah, you're never gonna get me out on the ice. No, thank you. In the off chance that you fall through the ice, it can be a big problem. Moskvich, Styx Hexenhammer, never heard of a ski lift. Yeah, I have, but it still takes time to get back up to the top, so. Also, I think that the first operational ski lift in the world actually was here in Vermont, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I'm pretty sure that it was. FB, Styx, I thought you might start the live stream at 11:11. Did you see a cartel try to take over a border town? No, I didn't, but I'll have to look into it. If you can get me something on Twitter DM, then I'll definitely cover the story. Gotta realize I'm partially reliant upon other people to tell me things that they're interested in. Sigil! Yesterday we got early snow, cloudy skies, and very windy. Today is even worse. We've inches of accumulation on ground that's supposed to be too warm for that, and the plow trucks aren't out. Yay! Yeah, we don't need plow trucks where we're going here in Vermont. It's snowing fairly nice, but it's not going to accumulate too much. I'd say maybe another inch or two probably today through the night. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. Nikki Haley's son was on Fox. Seems he's a groiper. Oh, that's hilarious. So yeah, let's get to the first story. 8 Democrats have decided to side with the Republicans in the Senate to get rid of this government shutdown nonsense and proceed with a budget. Now, this is a temporary, like a stopgap budget. It's just a continuation. So this is not a long-term solution. This is more, hey, we're going to keep the government open temporarily and then negotiate the other elements of, a potential budget deal separately. And 8 Democrats in the Senate, at least, have signed off on it. I'd be surprised if there weren't some House Dems that decided to ignore Hakeem Jeffries and do the same thing. It's a little bit different within districts as opposed to representing states, so we'll see what happens. But my belief is that likely a few of them will go along with the basic premise. The idea is that you pass your budget, you debate the ACA subsidies and things like that separately, and you promise a vote down the road and say, look, we will debate this, we will actually have a conversation, but right now it's more important to get the government reopened. The same Democrats, in many cases, that said, the GOP and Trump are trying to take your SNAP benefits away, all of a sudden are not happy with a deal that has bipartisan support. You had 8 Democratic senators voting in favor of it, Fetterman and so forth, Angus King, among others. You had 8 Democratic senators voting in favor of this to try to push it through, to get it to the House, where they need reconciliation because it's not the same bill that they originally made. And so then they have to pass it. Jeffries is saying, no, we won't pass it. Oh my God, I command every Democrat within the House to vote nay. This will probably not happen. I have a feeling that they'll have at least a smattering of support. It'll pass through, go back to the Senate. It's obviously already passed. And then it goes to Trump's desk, and then the shutdown ends, which is good for the average American, by the way. The Democrats now, though, own this particular rolling disaster because they're the ones that are standing in the way of a potential deal. The original deal by the Republicans was rejected. The original deal by Democrats was rejected. Now you've got a fusion deal that's been hammered out between the two of them, and there are still Democrats that want to reject it. Well, at that point, if it doesn't pass, you own it. It's not Trump. He won't even get a chance to sign it if you block it. So it's not his fault. It's not the Republicans' fault because they achieved bipartisan support in the Senate, kicked it back down to the House where it's likely to pass just on partisan support, if not bipartisan. If it does get blocked, it's now the Democrats' fault. They can blame nobody else but themselves and Chuck Schumer, the tantrum thrower. BW, distressing polls on CNN, about 76% of Indies see Trump economy unfavorably and 61% of public hearing his economy I know it's CNN, but do you think Trump open government and tariff checks can lift that? I think that we're going through a transitory period similar to what Javier Milei went through. So it'll gain popularity, I believe, when it works. Hopefully it does. And that's what everyone should be hoping for, regardless of who's fronting a plan. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I believe that the CNN poll is cherry-picked, though. They usually are. Sigil. I hope Trump does send out tariff checks. Pay us back for some of the debt the government has taken out in our name. Exactly. Why can't we have some meat? Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. Nikki Haley's son was on Fox. Seems he's a groper. Oh, I already read that one. Well, you got a freebie then. By the way, there's a lot of noise downstairs. That would be my niece mainly, actually, down there. It's snowing out, so I have a feeling that I'm going to be engaged in a snowball fight later. Yeah, I'm going to have to armor up. Just the way that it works. Let's get to our sponsors before we get to the rest of the news, though. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills like Radiant Energy and Brain Squared. You should take them. They are good for you. They help with gastrointestinal health. They also help with general vitality. There's a reason I'm so energetic all of the time. It's not even a caffeine at this point. That's what I'm talking about. Also, you get doggy does. Those are doggo snacks, pupper snacks. And it will help your dog the same way that the regular pills help you. Vitality, anti-aging, gastrointestinal health. I will vouch for it. I literally use it every single day. Secondly, we've got BiltongUSA.com. That is the land of Anton's imports. You know, Bovrite, Vegemite, Marmite, things of that nature, various teas and so forth. Some of it's real delicious. As well as some of these jams. That pineapple jam is definitely a lot better than the stuff that you're going to get in a store. Also, we got Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available, as well as Anton's famous meat. Wagyu, Angus, Cabanassi, venison, bison. If it moves, he's probably had it slaughtered and then turned it into a form of a biltong. And it's delicious, so you can't lose. And finally, jamandbean.com. That is jamnbean.com. The land of the Clank Blend. Also various other coffee blends. Some of them are like more fruity, some of them are more robust, some of them are more light. And then you have various teas, of course, available both caffeinated and decaf, depending on what you want. I would recommend getting a couple of kinds. You take the caffeinated tea in the morning, get your energy up, do your thing. Then in the evening, you drink some herbal tea. Just my own personal preference. So those are our sponsors. That's what I'm talking about. Sigil. Styx sold his Avalon because he's now pulled around in a carriage by giant gay owls. Dashing Rogue. The shutdown will continue into January 2026. It's not 100% clear. We're not 100% sure what's going to happen with regards to the shutdown. That would be bad, though. It would be bad for both parties, by the way, because it would stretch on through Thanksgiving, meaning that people wouldn't be able to buy their fucking cranberry sauce. Honestly, I'd rather buy a couple of cans of cranberry sauce for someone who's down and out in my own country than spend it on, shooting somebody in a third world nation. Just saying, I think that we should have our priorities in order. I'm a moderate. Lord help them, they have to deal with people who aren't. Spider Eternal. Hey Clankers, I hope you have a fantastic day. I noticed the insurrection folks are mighty quiet these days. Lol. Yes, exactly. Let's talk about the tariff rebate checks, by the way. When we're talking about this, some people are saying, well, illegals, tarred and feathered, illegals will receive $2,000 stimulus checks. I do not believe that people that are illegally in the country are actually eligible to receive any potential stimulus. It's going to be income-based in part, and people will receive money back, because they've paid into the system, they're paying for tariffs. Of course, that does raise the price of imported goods. And the hope is that they use that money to buy domestic goods. It makes sense. It's not a perfect plan, but at the very least, it is a plan. I would note that people across the aisle, they don't seem to have a plan at all. It does not exist. So here's a solution that's flawed, but at the very least will generally work. There's a non-solution that can't work because there's no solution actually being offered. I support the idea of tariff rebate checks. I wouldn't get one, but some people who are in need would. It would help ameliorate some of the damage done by Bidenomics, assuming that these people understand basic accounting. This is another thing that I wanted to ramble about just briefly. In school, we need to bring back home ec. We need to bring back accounting. We need to bring back basic civics. The things that we had in the past that worked perfectly well. There was no reason to change them. If the clock's not broken, then don't try to fix it. It's already keeping time. That's the only thing that we need to do for our nation. We have a highly literate population of driven and skilled individuals. We are capable of doing it. We've been doing it for over 2 centuries. We're capable of building things without regulations. We're capable of maintaining things without government oversight. We're capable of generally taking care of ourselves. Is there some particular reason why we're no longer capable of doing that? I don't believe that there is. I believe that we're perfectly capable of doing so. Government just gets in the way. Whenever the government gets out of the way, it's the best thing in the world. If you want to give people, some of their own money back, yeah, I don't care if they spend it on potato chips. I really don't, honestly. Sigil, I'm fine with the government employees not being able to afford a Thanksgiving. Get a real job, you fucking parasites. Yeah, but you gotta understand, it's not really their fault, it's the government's fault, so. Rabatha. But that's how we became so great, fixing what wasn't broken, but making it better. Yeah, that would be great if they would actually fix what's broken and make it better. Instead, they fix what's not broken and make it worse. That's the whole problem. Sigil, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm fine with my tax dollars bombing brown people. Can't be properly racist if I think it's bad they're getting blown up. Thought about it. Why wouldn't I want that? Oh, if that's what you're into, Oscar Gonzalez, blame sloppy Autopen Joe and his party. Yes, exactly. At first, I got a little bit dyslexic there at a moment and thought you were mentioning Sloppy Joes, and I'm like, damn, I wish I had a couple of those right now. It's snowing pretty good outside, and this is the sort of day where you have a nice beefy vegetable soup with lots of root vegetables, and you slow cook it for 4 or 5 hours, or you have like Sloppy Joes or something like that. Preferably with deviled eggs and things of that nature. It is important I make good deviled eggs. With many variants, by the way. Olympics set to announce transgender athletes are banned from all female events in 2028 games. The place of transgender athletes at the top of international sporting events is set to change. A ban on transgender women participating in the Olympics looks set to be announced, with all affected athletes barred from the upcoming games in 2028. Yes, indeed, the International Olympic Committee is saying, behold, believe it or not, men should not be competing in women's sports. Now, normally a rational person would say, okay, well, yeah, all right, that's a no-brainer. Kind of makes sense. But there are actually people that are offended over this. How dare you? In other words, if I were to start injecting estrogen, which I wouldn't do because I don't like needles. Let's say I take estrogen supplements somehow. Maybe I boof them up my ass or something like that. And I grow boobs and, lose my beard and stuff like that. And then I decide to join the Olympics. Should this be allowed? No, of course it shouldn't be allowed. It makes absolutely no sense. Men, on average, are taller, have more musculature than women. women tend to be more agile. They're more likely to become a gymnast or something like that, and because their bodies are lighter, they can potentially actually go faster. So there are differences between the two genders, and there are only two of them. This needs to be a scientific reality that is preached from the rooftops, apparently, because some people didn't get the memo. Men and women, believe it or not, are not the same. I don't understand how this is controversial in any way, shape, or form. If you want to express your identity any way that you want, so you're a dude, but you want to wear a skirt and you only want to have sex with men and stuff, who cares? You're an adult, do whatever the hell you want. You're a woman, but you want to put on the biker jacket, smear yourself with, bacon grease, and then go to the biker bar and stuff. Again, nobody cares. It's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter what you want to do as a consenting adult. Just don't expect other people to necessarily agree with your lifestyle choices and or bow before you almost in a religious manner using whatever pronouns you happen to tell them to use. And the absurdism, by the way, is a backlash against that, like with the attack helicopter pronoun and stuff like that. How is that any more invalid? How is there any difference? Well, you're saying your pronouns are okay, but my pronouns aren't. Well, that just points to a larger problem. You're saying that the orthodoxy of gender norms is unacceptable. It's too moralistic. It's too controlling. So you have the ability to say, hey, I may have been born with the Y chromosome, but I identify as female. Very well. Then how is it any more absurdist for somebody to say, I identify as a helicopter, I identify as a swamp creature, I identify as a lord? Well, if identity is completely malleable and completely subjective, there's really no argument that they can construe against it now, is there? Nope, does not exist. Anything goes, I suppose. Either we're going to have a set of stringencies with regards to what gender means. Not gender expression, that is malleable, but gender in and of itself. Or there's going to be no stringency, in which case I can declare myself plantkin and say the only thing that I want to do is fuck my bromeliads over there, and there's nothing that you can do about it, and you have to use my pronouns. My pronouns are bro and bromelade, My pronouns are plant and plantkin. Cooking Inferno. I love the idea of a hot, beefy soup. Lasagna soup is awesome in the snow, or chili, but my favorite on a cold, snowy day is shepherd's pie. Ah, shepherd's pie, a man of similar taste. I know the feel. I put lots and lots of ketchup onto my shepherd's pie, because I'm a madman. RoboGuy. If tariffs are overturned by SCOTUS, Trump says we're fucked. Thoughts? I don't think that they're going to overturn them. If they did, there are workarounds, though, that are available. Lunar Eclipse. Sticks. From populist libertarian perspective, shouldn't healthcare be publicly funded? Would you agree some services shouldn't be for profit? No, I think everything should be for profit. Government should stand out of the way, and that'll drop the costs precipitously. Once the costs are much down, then you no longer have a problem. People will generally be able to afford it. You can give basic subsidies to people who can't afford at least basic care, but beyond that, it should be at people's own expense. Sigil Stone. I sexually identify as the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. It's one hell of an orgasm. That's what I'm talking about. Vulcus. Hello, Sticks. I was thinking about you when I was dry jerking in the shitter at work and unfortunately caused a huge mess. It was like curdled milk sprayed everywhere. Thanks. Bert Herbert. Sticks. What makes you a man? I have a Y chromosome and a dick. Also, I happen to take initiative. I do not break down when I am sad. Instead, I just work harder. That's what it's like to be a man. Oh, this is a good one. Well, I mean, it's not good, but, it's a good news story. Ghislaine Maxwell gets concierge-style treatment at prison camp. Whistleblower claims, according to report. Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee revealed that a whistleblower came forward to them who claimed that Ghislaine Maxwell was receiving favorable treatment at the prison camp she was transferred to in August, according to NBC News. Is anyone really particularly surprised at this? I can't be the only commentator who predicted that this was the eventual outcome. The whistleblower claimed Maxwell received concierge-style treatment at federal prison camp Bryan in Texas, which includes after-hours permission to use the exercise area, customized meals, time to spend with puppies being trained to become service dogs, and more, including a never-ending bevy of mama's issues, teenage and college-age girls who will come in there and gladly share her cell to get their commissaries filled up. The whistleblower claimed to be one of the top prison camp officials, complained that he's sick of having to be Maxwell's bitch. She was transferred from a federal prison facility in Tallahassee to FPC Bryan, her attorney previously told Fox News Digital. Neither the Bureau of Prisons nor Maxwell's attorney gave a reason for the move. It's because they're trying to buy her silence. Epstein's accomplice also plans to ask President Donald Trump for a commutation of her 20-year prison sentence, the whistleblower claimed. Yeah, you're not going to get that. But apparently she's basically being coddled while she's in prison. This is not particularly confusing to me. They want Maxwell to remain silent. They realize that if they were to Epstein her, that is, that she totally didn't kill herself, that might look a little bit bad and trigger an investigation. Since they can't do that, they basically told her, look, you're in a low-security facility with all sorts of crazy shit. It's basically like being in a college dorm. Just rape as many of these young women as you want to. That's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and scissor in your cell. We'll look the other way. You'll get special food and other special treatment. It'll basically like being at a country club. And then after a few years, we'll make sure the sentence is cut short, by the way. After a few years, you can just go and continue doing your perverted thing. Just don't say anything. Don't talk to the media. Don't give an interview. Don't do anything like that. And you're golden. You know, you're older now anyway, so you'll get out and you'll be able to go and perv on young girls again. The Dead Night Tiger, I had a shepherd's pie once. He was pissed. Yeah, shepherd's pie is one of my favorite meals. Cooking Inferno, I'd like to enjoy Greta's Ghislaine. That's disgusting. You want a disease? Sigil Stone, did Styx see my question yesterday about trying Total War Warhammer? Demons, goblins, magic, and matchlocks. If you're into not Empire, you're going to hell. I would probably try playing that. I tried playing the Total War game that was more like from antiquity and stuff. And I don't know, I didn't like it as much. I love Napoleon Total War, including the massive, massive over-design of it with NTW3, which was fan-made, if I remember correctly. They added so much to that fucking game. So many more maps, so much more size, so much more strategy, larger armies, all sorts of crazy shit. And they did a really great job. The only criticism that I would have is that they need to add back the organic units to all of those different armies. So basic infantry, cavalry, and artillery should be available to everyone because all of those armies had it. Instead, a lot of it is like named army groups, like different regiments and stuff. And there's something to be said for that, but you could retool it a little bit further. It wouldn't take much effort, actually, at all. Also, if you're playing NTW, use a mouse. You're not going to want to use just your keyboard. You can, but it's going to be a lot harder. Spacco. Butternut squash soup is my favorite. Made it before. It came out really, really well, actually. Yeah, butternut squash is one of my favorites. It's almost Thanksgiving. That means there will be squash on tap, along with my homemade cranberry sauce. And I'll probably make the potatoes, too. Somebody else will have to handle the turkey and stuffing because I'm going to have to observe that and learn. Sorry. I'll have to learn exactly how that's done. I've never done it before. Dabu. Screw off, Sigilstone. I am not fine with my tax money going towards bombing anyone, regardless of skin color. Goodness. Allergens in the trees again? Thank you, Styx, for your based anti-war stance over the years. Yes, I'm against war. Gesundheit, as Kanye would say. RCW, Turkish lentil soup is underrated. Agreed, I've cooked it once before. Jesus. Well, I don't know. I sniffed something. There's no pepper around, and I can't imagine there's much pollen around either, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. Supreme Court leans against Rastafarian man seeking to sue prison officials for cutting his dreadlocks. Nuanced opinion time. If somebody shows up in prison and they've got unkempt hair that could cause lice or something like that, I can understand why generally the proclivity would be towards trimming it or slashing it off. This individual only had a few weeks left in his sentence, had already been there with his dreadlocks for an extended period of time. He had been growing them for, according to this article, nearly 2 decades. Why is it that as soon as he showed up and showed them a piece of paper saying, look, the courts have said that I'm allowed to have my Rasta hair, why is it that then they handcuffed him to a chair and then shaved his head? This is quite clearly a breach of the First Amendment. If you had a problem with his hair, you would have shaved it upon him coming to prison in the first place. But they did not do that. Instead, he had the Rasta hair for an extended period of time, and then they chose to shave it once he decided to confront them and say, look, you're not allowed to shave my Rasta hair. All of a sudden, they decided to get a big dick, a steroid-addled dick, and then go after his hair. I personally do not see the problem. If a person wants to have dreadlocks or something in prison, I don't understand. It's not a weapon. It's not an issue under any normal circumstances. What is he going to do? Cut off one of his braids and choke somebody to death with it? Well, he can do that with shoelaces, so I don't see exactly what the problem is. I think that this is a clear-cut First Amendment violation. And while I'm not a Rastafarian, and I definitely would never get dreadlocks, I prefer my hair to be free-flowing and beautiful like this. If somebody wants to have that, seriously, is this really a big issue? Is this a hill to die upon? Sometimes pragmatism should be practiced with regards to the law. More often than not, that is not actually the case. It's a big problem. So yeah, if you want to have Rasta braids in prison, I just don't understand why that would be a problem. And cuffing someone to a chair to shave it when they're about to leave the prison anyway also makes no sense. This is bullying by the guards there. Cooking Inferno Sticks. Hint on the turkey. Use an injector as well as a baster and stuff the bird with onion, lemons, and 4 herbs. You know, the song about those 4. Normally, with the turkeys here, they get basted heavily. And it's delicious, let me tell you, when it's done. Especially the next day when you put it on turkey sandwiches with homemade bread. And ketchup, of course. I'm not going to go without my ketchup. But then you ram its ass full of stuffing. That's what I'm talking about. It is important to ram stuffing up its asshole. It tastes better that way. I never really liked stuffing if it was cooked on its own. Only when it's simmered off in the turkey, because then the drippings, they make it more mild and more meaty. That's what I'm talking about. RCW, are any of your male family members baldies? Well, my dad keeps his hair short, but he's not really bald, no. AWOL, a prisoner hid a disassembled pistol in his hair in the 70s. Yeah, you get things like that, but I mean, how common is it? Yeah, not very common. Ripsidian, stuff the turkey, Sticks. Yeah, what you do is you just take a standard mix of stuffing and you literally stuff it into the turkey. Then you cook the turkey. You gotta baste it repeatedly, though. It's definitely an all-day meal. It's not the sort of thing that you prepare in a couple of hours. It's gonna take a little bit more than that. Opinionated junkie. I don't understand what is worse, Gen X or boomers. They're saying things like there is nothing wrong with the economy or you don't need a house. Yeah, well, they're all a bunch of bullshitters, actually. I would note that there are plenty of people from Gen X and the Boomer generation that are with it and understand that the situation currently is untenable and understand that we need change. That being said, that there are some people, they get older, right? They get like over 40 or thereabouts. They fucking sell out. And they're just nothing more than a pawn of the establishment. And they're like, I've got mine, whatever the hell that happens to be. And so other people should be deprived of the ability to get what's theirs. I disagree. I think that everyone should be able to get ahead if they're willing to work. Cooking Inferno sticks homemade turkey club sandwiches the next day. Don't skimp on the bacon, but use cranberry sauce instead of mayo. I like to add the cranberry sauce actually to the turkey sandwiches. It mixes good with ketchup, honestly. Opinionated junkie. No wonder the young gen is turning to socialism. Part of it is. The other part appears to be turning towards right-wing moralism, actually, like with the cottagecore stuff. It's very, very funny when you think about it. It's almost like a bipolar generation, Gen Z is. I just can't wait until Gen Alpha comes of age and what the hell they're going to do with things. Has America found its Mussolini in Mamdani? Yes, indeed. A hardened leader determined to transform not just the city that had elected him, but the entire country, had replaced the sweetness and light, ain't I cute and charming candidate of the campaign trail. Instead, he suddenly evinced the tough, take-no-prisoners swagger of Mussolini. Yeah, they're trying to compare Mamdani to Mussolini. This is one thing that I have to disagree with. I do not like Mamdani. I'm glad that he won't ever be mayor of Rutland, for example. He's a blowhard, an idiot. He has ideologically backwards views that date back more than a century. He is a communist. He believes in Karl Marx. That's why he quotes him sometimes. That being said, I do not believe that he's like Mussolini. We've seen plenty of Mussolini comparisons with Donald Trump, for example. None of them are realistic. The same is true when you're comparing Mamdani to Mussolini. You should be comparing Mamdani to Pol Pot more than anything else. You should be comparing him to the worst of the communist dictators who wanted to have the government run stores, who wanted to reallocate property according to their whim, even when it was private property, that want to tell people what to do on a regular basis. This is well beyond Mussolini. This is into the realm of core communism. Mamdani is a communist. He is not a Mussolini state capitalist. Now, of course, I have my own problem with Mussolini's policies as well. But at the very least, there was basically the capability of balancing a budget sometimes. You've never seen this under a communist regime. And that's exactly what you're going to see with Mamdani. He's not going to be able to balance the notes and make them right in New York City. It's simply fundamentally impossible if he goes through with his plans. He's already been smacked down by the Hochul regime, let alone the incoming likely Elise Stefanik regime. So he's not going to get any of that money. What the hell is he supposed to do? You're not going to get your free buses. You're not going to get your government-run grocery stores and your freebies and handouts and stuff that he wants to bribe you with. It's just welfare breadcrumbs anyway. You know, you got to realize, a large proportion of the population would think that if they got $1,000, that all of a sudden they had gotten something massive. But the people that are controlling things, they wipe their ass with $1,000. Mamdani is a multi-millionaire. He thinks the same way. So saying that he's going to uplift the poor by giving them a very, very small stipend compared to the money that's being embezzled from people that are productive within New York City is absolutely ludicrous. And that's exactly what Mamdani, at least, is proclaiming that he wants to do. Now, behind closed doors, I'm sure that he's smoking a Havana cigar and drinking some vodka right now and laughing at his constituents and saying, aha, these fucking retards, they think that I'm actually going to give them anything? Yeah, we'll increase the welfare checks by 10% and call it a day. And they'll think themselves not ill-used as a result of this, because they have no foresight and don't realize how much wealth they're actually dealing with. Because people are ignorant, and people ultimately get the government that they vote for, they get the government that they deserve. The people of New York City Not all of them, but by and large, a majority of them deserve Mamdani's leadership. Let them wrestle with that. Let them deal with it. There's nothing that anyone else in the country can do. We can't unilaterally tell you, hey, you made the wrong decision for mayor because he's a malevolent prick, a pile of shit. So, you should recall him. We can encourage him, but we can't force the issue. As far as Mamdani goes, no, he's no Mussolini. He's not intelligent enough to be Mussolini. He's not even smart enough to be, Mussolini. Cooking Inferno. Thoughts on green bean casserole? It's good when there's an overabundance of French onions on top. I do not like green bean casserole. Sigil. Cut a turkey in half, spread it out, add some crab legs and a rope of sausage links to make it look like a face hugger from Aliens. No one will ask you to cook ever again. Man, whatever floats your boat. Lunar Eclipse. Sticks. Thoughts on Trump allowing 600,000 plus students from China in our universities? What the fuck is happening to America first? Is Trump slacking off? I don't care if people from foreign countries study in the country. I do care if they are voting or, submitting money to political campaigns. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. I'm making crawfish stuffing for Thanksgiving. Never heard of that before. Crawdads in the stuffing. I can see how that would work. Not how well it would pair with the turkey drippings, but yeah. Huh. It could work. I had a weird shrimp soup last night. It was one of those instant Japanese soups that JD sent me. And it was really, really good. At first, I didn't realize that it was shrimp, though. At first, I thought those were little shreds of carrot, but it was actually pieces of shrimp. It was really good. Then I had fugu, actually. It does actually make your lips tingle if it's real fugu, and this was actually fugu. I'm surprised that the Japanese are capable of turning this into an instant soup, by the way. Somehow, they found a way. Peru's Serpent Mountain sheds its mysterious past. Alien theories aside, the winding path of holes has a much more down-to-earth explanation. Yeah, there's a bunch of lines of pits, actually, in the Peruvian mountains. And they weren't sure exactly what these were for. It turns out what it appears to be is a series of financial transactions. For some reason, unbeknownst to modern archaeology, they decided to bury them out in a mountain ridge, actually. So what you would do is you would dig out the material, and the seal, the urn, the transaction itself was put into the earth and then buried up, presumptively to refer to later as necessary for legal purposes, actually. This reminded me of something else within archaeology, actually, which is the Babylonian and Assyrian system. They had a very, very similar system. They would have urns, and they would have seals on them in wax, carved on wood, and so forth, showing like, here's the transaction. This person decided to go with this person on this deal, and they decided to trade 10 goats for 100, urns of wine or something like that. And these were meticulously recorded for taxation purposes and for legal purposes, because it was actually a very litigious society. It seems like we might be getting an indicator that the ancient Peruvian society involved here probably was engaged with similar behavior. That is, that people would sue effectively. They would take up their grievances with the authorities, and then they would dig up the urn or something and say, look, he agreed he'd give me 10 goats. He only gave me 8. I can prove this. Zunfar, my neighbor here, he'll attest to it. He's my witness. It looks like almost a modern court system, actually, more than anything else. It's pretty fun. I would love to see Peru, by the way. It's like a beautiful country. Sigil. Except for the massive amount of espionage and scientific research theft that Chinese students do while in the US. They all do because the CCP threatens their families. I do not believe that all of them are spies. That being said, we do need to be vigilant against the possibility that some of them, and this is certain, actually are. I would warn people, don't get stuck in the FDR trap. Remember that Franklin Delano Roosevelt decided that several 100,000 lawful citizens and residents of the United States should be put in concentration camps because they were of Japanese and or Italian/Germanic origin. He did this without any just cause. He did this without any evidence whatsoever, etc., etc. The idea of Japanese spying was always massively overblown. It is true that China is spying on the US, as well as other Western nations. That doesn't mean that any random Asian person that you meet, number one, is Chinese, and number two, is involved in an espionage program. Some of these individuals are effectively dissidents. They left China to study specifically because they felt unwelcome in their own home country, and I have sympathy for them. It's a matter of simply using your determination of whether that person is actually being genuine or not. I would like to think that we have the intelligence to generally determine that. And of course, if somebody is simply coming to study liberal arts or something like that, they're probably not privy to any classified information. Just saying. Anton is still there. That gives me an excuse to eat more biltong. I know, I just like it. It's all good. Sigil, no dude, they're all spies. If they're able to go back to China, they're working for the CCP. That's how they operate. We should not be advancing the knowledge and technology of an enemy nation at all. True. Let's say that somebody comes for a liberal arts degree. So they're studying English and math and things like that. What kind of technological advancements are they privy to? What kind of classified information? Unless they're like super spy or something like that, they're basically just learning how to speak English and stuff. Some of these people want to leave China, not without good reason. And I do not have a problem with them. Leon, they steal other info. Again, though, you're a student at a college in the liberal arts department, and you're learning English and basic science and stuff like that. What are you supposed to steal? There's nothing to steal. It's not there. Believe it or not, a lot of people want to come to the United States to study because, at least at the secondary level, it has a fairly rigorous educational system. That being said, there does need to be a better vetting process involved. And herein lies the problem. Do we trust the U.S. government to actually implement such a vetting system properly? Under the Trump administration, maybe. An attempt would at least be made. Under other administrations, I wouldn't be so sure. So I am amenable to the argument that you're making. I'm just pointing out that some people come from foreign shores to study in the United States simply because if you have a U.S. degree, it's more prestigious. Like, which one is more prestigious? You get a master's degree in medicine from the Haitian School of Voodoo Medicine, or you get one from, Drexel or something like that, or from Yale. Probably the latter. Just saying. Yeah. Harrison Bergeron. What was Fang Fang studying when she was here? Because it put her in a place to get into bedtime info from Swalwell. Yeah, if the Chinese want to spy, it's not going to be some liberal studies student. It wouldn't make any sense because you're not going to get anything meaningful. They're going to aim higher. They're going to try to get into corporations and try to get into politics. Like with Feinstein's limo driver there, he was a Chinese spy. Doesn't seem to have ever accessed any classified info, but certainly the attempt was made. And then you've got, again, Fang Fang and some of these others. China is notorious for trying to infiltrate other countries. That doesn't mean that any random person from China is a spy. Because while they have plenty of them in all aspects of life across the Western world, It doesn't mean that any random person born in China is spying for the CCP. Sigil. If they're learning how to create more advanced technology while our people are denied those slots in college, that's equally bad to stealing classified information. We should not have foreign students. Yeah, I don't have a problem with foreign students either, honestly. It depends, just vet them. That's all you have to do. You just have to have a government that's capable of doing so. The local Wendigo, they tried to smuggle dangerous fungus in through the students. Fuck them. Can't trust anyone raised in the CCP territory. Yeah, there was that case where they were trying to import several different potential pathogens. And this is being looked into by the federal government, which it should be. And I support that. That being said, maybe we limit the importation of foreign students to things that don't have to do with doctorate level medicine. That seems like a fair compromise. Hey, yeah, you can get a bachelor's degree, maybe a double bachelor's here. That's perfectly fine. Liberal arts, that's okay. But you're not going into the medical lab. The Jinx Boy 13. What do you think of the Iran water crisis? Oh, I think I saw about that. Yeah, they have unfortunately a water shortage in the country, and I think that there are several projects that are set to address that. It's not surprising considering their geographic location. We'll just put it that way. Sigil, and Trump outright said allowing more Chinese students is just to prop up universities, like that's supposed to be his fucking job. It'll be fine. King of Biltong, we also specialize in imported foods. Check out Biltong USA for a great selection of imported candies, cookies, groceries, and of course Biltong. BiltongUSA.com. Code STICKS for 10% off Biltong. You can also get Bovrite, which I highly recommend. Put it on toast. Put it in a beef stew. You can use it as a base, actually, for a soup that has like loaded vegetables, root vegetables, and you can make a base for it with the Bovrite. Thicken it a little bit. Comes out really great. Absolutely delicious. Mr. Trump is weak on China. I don't think so. I've been told quite the opposite, actually, by most of the lamestream, saying he's going to collapse the economy by being too bullyish towards China. Which is sad, because these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. China is a paper dragon. It is nothing more than that. They have a huge export muscle and an increasingly large naval capacity, but it's like yesteryear, and honestly, I am bearish on China, and I have been for a number of years. They're already showing signs of strain. It's only a matter of time. By the way, you shouldn't revel in this. While destroying the Chinese economy would ultimately be good for Western interests, in the meantime, it's going to be very painful for people in the West because we've got addicted to the crack that is, Chinese exports. So it's going to be a little bit of a difficult problem. Just saying. Randall Flagg. Sticks, have you seen Kash Patel's proxy defamation lawsuit versus Elijah Schaffer and co.? He's being sued for calling his gal pal a Mossad honeypot. Normie con ghouls like Will Chamberlain are cackling. I did see that, and it's completely ridiculous, and the lawsuit should fall through immediately. If I want to call someone a Mossad honeypot, this is not defamation. It's just not. It makes absolutely no sense. Supposedly such things don't exist. Well, this is the same as if I called you a unicorn. Well, unicorns, supposedly, they don't exist. So I can't defame you by calling you a unicorn now, can I? So if there's no such thing as a Mossad honeypot, how can you claim a defamation case? Ask yourself that question. Put two and two together, dude. They're admitting that Mossad honeypots actually exist. They're just saying this particular individual happens not to be one. Which I find amusing to the max. Nobody else seems to have made that connection. They're admitting that they do exist. It's just this particular individual is not one of them. Sigil, FDR was 100% correct to imprison the Japanese after the Nihao incident. It took Japanese Americans not even hours to betray the U.S. It was the pragmatic choice against vetting millions during war. I disagree completely. When we're looking at that incident, which I believe took place in Hawaii, and a handful of other incidents, you got to understand that this is a startlingly small minority of people that were involved. There was a reason why an official apology was eventually actioned for people of Japanese descent in the United States. And most of these people, by the way, they weren't first gen. They were second or third generation. They had nothing. They've never been to Japan. In some cases, these people didn't even know Japanese. They spoke fluent English and nothing else. The local Wendigo. Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole. China is asshole. I get the reference. Yeah. That's pretty much all the news that we had for today. Although, I believe that it might have rolled over. Let's see. Yeah, we got Fetterman on the shutdown. It's still funny to me how the dude who suffered a massive stroke and almost died and had brain damage is now the only sane person in the Democratic Party. It shows a lot about the Democratic Party, by the way. And they're trying to encourage Schumer to step aside and things like that. There's not a whole lot of other news, though, honestly, today. This was a slow news day. Yeah. FB, what's Ghislaine in jail for if nothing happened, lol? Yeah, that's the old joke, is that Maxwell got prosecuted and put in jail for pimping people out to nobody at all. I'm amenable to this basic concept. Where are the Johns? Where are the people that may have actually broken the law? Because Maxwell apparently did. But certainly other people connected with her and Epstein, they broke the law too, and nothing's ever said about them. Hatch Christ, it's a Tuesday. What do you expect, Sticks? Yeah, sadly, Tuesdays and Sundays, they tend to be the empty days. And then on Mondays and Fridays, you just get a massive, never-ending slurry. It's actually difficult, because sometimes you have to hold over news stories from a prior day, even though they'll be dated, just as filler content, just to have something actually there. And it's more difficult than some people, I think, believe, actually. Tree Beer, did you get snow? Yes, it's snowing literally right now. At a fairly good clip, too. It's a little bit beyond just a basic flurry, I guess. Yes, it's Veterans Day, and yesterday was the 250th anniversary of the inception of the U.S. Marine Corps, the most hardcore fighting force in the history of the world. People will now debate that, now that I have said it. No, the SAS is better. No, the Spetsnaz is better. Give me a Marine. I'll take them. Just saying. Be funny to modify a Napoleon Total War, so it's like Vietnam era, and then you have like Marines and shit like that. And then they have an option to eat crayons and it gives them a boost or something like that. That'd be funny to make it like a joke game. Yeah. Drift speed. 70 million people died in World War II, but sad Hawaiian camping trip was awful. Exactly. Yeah, some apparently in Hawaii during World War II, a handful of Japanese managed to, I think they crash landed on an island that was controlled by the U.S. in the Hawaiian territory. And then they were taken care of by some of the locals. And this was seen as like treason or something. It's like, okay, injured people came down and you're giving them food and water and stuff like that. It's called humanitarian aid under any other circumstances. They clearly weren't spying. That never happened. And I believe that they were detained thereafter. Which makes sense. But that's the thing. They were prisoners of war at that point. It's a little bit different than somebody who was in your country as a lawful citizen. They're literally a citizen of the United States. You've put them in a concentration camp. How the hell is this different from the Nazis? Well, it's not. It's just that you won the war. That's the only difference. So you can sanitize your own history. Sigil Stone. Total Warhammer has magic-powered steam tanks. Just saying. Close enough to Nam. Tarred and Feathered. Jap plane crashed into Hawaiian leper colony. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, yeah. And it's like, that never should have happened. It was apologized for later because it was quite clearly unconstitutional. You took citizens of the United States, put them in prison camps for literally no purpose. You had no probable cause of any kind, and then just kept them there under lock and key, and several people were shot attempting to escape, even though, again, they're law-abiding citizens of the United States. You put me in a concentration camp, what do you think I'm going to do? First thing I'm going to do is look for security vulnerabilities and see if it's possible for me and others to escape. Of course I'm going to do that. Because I'm a free citizen. Well, they are too. The fact that they happen to be of Japanese descent doesn't mean that they're not citizens. But the FDR administration, FDR was notoriously racist against people from Asia. Like, beyond saying Jap, he would say things that would get me banned on a YouTube live stream. And keep in mind, this is the hero of the left. Our only socialist president, we pledge allegiance to FDR, who killed evil Adolf Hitler. No, he didn't do any of that bullshit. He was a piece of failure, basically. Damn, Anton, you're lucky. It's 65 degrees. Yeah, right now I'm looking at the snowstorm. Sigil, the Nihao incident went further. The Japanese civilians aided a Zero pilot even after he told him he attacked Pearl Harbor, and they helped him attack the local Hawaiians. They even took hostages. Oh, yeah, well, that's a bit different, but the thing is that that was one incident, as opposed to several 100,000 other individuals that were on the mainland who got interned and did absolutely nothing wrong. Bobby, Sticks, I went to New Orleans this weekend and drunkenly, loudly rambled about Hitler and the Nazis in the French Quarter. I think you'd be surprised they're used to that sort of thing. They'll just be chuckling at you. Honestly, I wish I had some New Orleans weather at the moment, though, because looking at the snow outside, it's like, all right, it's festive. You know, you can do your roast turkey and, you know, some good old root veggie soup and stuff like that. That's wonderful. Fresh bread and all of these other wonderful things that you have during cold weather. But then you look outside and it's just like all bleak and stuff like that. It's just, I prefer spring. May and June are my favorite months. Yes, Andy, correct. Germans and Italians were also put in camps, but they're white, so we all forgot. Yeah, and they never got reparations as far as I know. Very telling. Rabatha, say his name and you may notice you fail. 9. Whatever. So you believe in God, then? I am apatheistic. I neither believe nor disbelieve. I see it as something that cannot be reconciled by human thought anyway, because if there is such a being, it is beyond our scope of understanding, and if there is no being, then there's nothing to understand. Spucko! General Curtis LeMay said that if the U.S. had lost the war, he'd be up on war crimes charges. Yeah, no shit. It'd be more than just him, too. FDR would be drawn and quartered. Yeah, probably deserved it. Sigil, yeah, it was one incident because FDR imprisoned the Japanese. There's no knowing what would have happened if he didn't. You think George Takei wasn't crazy back then, too? What would have happened? One Japanese Zero pilot decides to go off on an island? Yeah, it wouldn't have meant anything. There was, by the way, one Japanese soldier. This is a funny story. I can't remember his name. that survived into the 1970s, actually. He was the last recovered individual who survived World War II. He didn't know that World War II was over and took shelter on a fairly remote island and basically did the survivalism thing and occasionally raided local villages for supplies. And in the end, they had to get his commanding officer onto the island to call him down because he didn't know that the war was over. I think that was, what, 72 or something like that? I think that was 1970. It was in the 1970s, I know that. And so that was the last soldier that refused to stand down after World War II. With apparently he had a squad of men too, and they all died. And he was the last survivor, and he managed to like make ends meet, so to speak. Imagine that life. Sounds fun, actually. Hey, today, what did I do? I built a campfire, killed an animal, roasted it, and then I gathered vegetables. Ta-da! Aquafan. I saw snow fall from the sky for the first time in my 30-year life yesterday. I know this is just the beginning. Northern Kentucky is very different from North Central Florida. I don't think I'm ready for January and February. Oh, it'll be nothing down there if you're in that area. Don't worry, you'll get a couple of inches tops. Here, we might get a couple of feet. If you want to see Skyrim, come and see Vermont during January. Yeah, just come up to northern New England sometime in the middle of winter, around my birthday, January 20th. And then you will see what snow really means. Oscar Gonzalez. Sounds like an episode of Gilligan's Island. Yeah, the dude, apparently he was effectively stranded on this island, which was inhabited, but, he kept to himself out in the jungles and shit. And he managed to survive from 44 or thereabouts all the way up until the early to mid 70s. And basically, he had his shelter. He, harvested animals and vegetables and stuff like that, used his survival skills. And occasionally he would raid local villages and take supplies. And he managed to do this for more than 30 years, actually, which is fantastic. And so I give that dude a medal. And finally, they had to take his commanding officer with his full regalia on, get him onto the island, and go up into the hills and say, come on, dude, the war's been over for, several decades. You no longer need to fight. Honestly, if I was that dude, I just would have shot my commanding officer, said fuck you, and then wandered off into the woods and kept up that lifestyle. If you can survive that long under those conditions, why the hell would you want to rejoin society? Sigil, again, Japanese civilians in Hawaii helped that Zero pilot and they shot people. In an alternate universe, we're talking about how the Japanese should have been imprisoned after one blew up an ammo factory. Yeah, well, the fact that one person does something doesn't mean collective punishment. That's like saying that one white person decided to lynch a black man, so all white people should be in prison as a result of that. I do not agree with this basic premise. Adam Yalt, long-term fan from New Hampshire, living on Cape Cod now as a handyman. I've been busy as hell turning off the outdoor showers. I laugh at AI coming for my job. Yeah, it'll be a while before AI is capable of doing, that sort of work. CJ, Earth is flat and stationary. Interesting hypothesis. You will need evidence for this. So yeah, we do have a new news docket, but I kind of want to, just a sec here. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm going to hold those over till tomorrow. The ones on RCP anyway. Sometimes you gotta do that. It's a big problem. Go fuck yourself, Rufu. Some people believe that, including George Takei. Well, George Takei is mentally retarded, so he's got a little bit of a problem. Yeah, the problem is George Takei, while talented, and the prank calls are pretty funny. I did those on the Stern Show a number of times. He has extremely far left views, and he's got cognitive dissonance. So the socialist regime that locked him and his family up, he doesn't blame them. For some inexplicable reason, he blames people on the right wing of politics. And so George Takei is mentally retarded, and there's no other way to put it. Sigil. It was a married couple that helped the Zero pilot. They also tried to help him conceal maps and other sensitive documents from his plane, all while knowing he bombed Pearl Harbor. Seriously, dude, just look into the Nihao incident. FDR was justified. No, he was not justified over one incident. Absolutely not, because it involved U.S. citizens. They have the right to due process. They have constitutional rights. They were deprived of this because of the racialist bigotry of the FDR administration that Democrats never want to talk about. They thought that because a person was of Japanese heritage, even if they were born in the United States and their parents were born in the United States, even if they were only a Hapa or something like that, all of a sudden they were an automatic enemy of state and they had to go to the camps. I do not believe that the government should wield such power, nor do I believe that the founders would agree with it either. There's nothing pragmatic about it either. It would be better to allow some basic bitch maps or something like that to escape back into enemy hands than to oppress hundreds of thousands of people. Because who gives a shit if the Japanese know the location of a refinery or something like that? They know where it is anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. FDR was the worst president the United States has ever suffered through. He's remembered, therefore, as a really, really great president because he gave people welfare breadcrumbs and kept them barely alive during the Great Depression, which he helped to prolong. If anything, it should be FDR's statues that are being dragged down. Also, he was an incestuous cousin fucker, so, there's that too. Fucked his cousin. His wife was absolutely hideous, by the way. And also, at least partially a relative. Then you've got the internment camps, the confiscation of land, entering us into a war we had no business of entering into and didn't need to. There were other workarounds, etc., etc., etc. So fuck the warmongering FDR. Yeah, I'm glad that he's in hell. Can't wait to visit him. Patch Christ. Oh, yeah. Hoover was bad because he was clueless. George W. Bush was bad because warmongering, but then FDR was the same thing. Madison, James Madison was better. I would say John Adams, the second president of the United States, supplanted by Thomas Jefferson with the Alien and Sedition Act, brought us perilously close to destroying the First Amendment. So I would put him on the shit list as well. And there are a couple of others, but as far as FDR goes, I'm not going to give him any fucking kudos because he doesn't deserve them. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is remembered by people who are stupid as being one of the greatest presidents, and by people who have actually studied U.S. history and civics as being one of the worst presidents. They just don't like to talk about it generally because they've got professional reputations, so they're not allowed to say that. But I'm not a professor, so I can say it. FDR was a piece of shit. A complete goddamn man-whore, number one. Completely retarded, number two. Took us into war without any particular reason. Despite, attempting diplomacy supposedly at least on paper, but then never actually followed through. Then you have the concentration camps, which is what they are. There's no difference between internment camp and concentration camp. They're the same thing. So he put hundreds of thousands of law-abiding citizens and residents in concentration camps for no reason other than their ethnicity. Started killing a bunch of people, was fucking his cousin and his secretary the entire time, and prolonged the Great Depression. What a wonderful president. What a great dude. Theodore Roosevelt did a good job. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was an idiot. By the way, he was also involved actually with the what's it called? Fucking Oak Island money pit. He actually was invested in trying to extract that at one point. Most people don't know this. He was directly involved. This is before he got polio and was crippled. He was involved with the money pit in Oak Island up in Canada. Sigil Stone. The maps were of Japanese fleet positions and fortifications. Getting them helped us win the Pacific, and I think defending the homeland from any infiltrators would be its basic job. Yeah, that's great. So in turn, that particular individual, there was no reason to randomly jail several 100,000 other people who did nothing wrong. It was not necessary. Cooking Inferno, you forgot about Wilson, the income tax and 16th Amendment traitor who was stroked out for part of his presidency and loved the Klan. Yes, actually, under Wilson, the first movie to be screened at the White House was Birth of a Nation. By the way, a very good movie. It's a silent movie. And it's not really in favor of the Ku Klux Klan or anything like that. It's and there was a second part that was actually made by the movie maker, sort of explaining the ethos behind it. It's really more of a historical piece. Very fascinating movie with lots of cute girls, because back then, girls knew how to be cute, unlike today in many cases. But Wilson did have a stroke, and all of a sudden his signature on documents, which his wife wouldn't allow anyone into the room other than herself, all of a sudden the documents were signed by a hand that looked an awfully lot like hers, as opposed to his. Technically, we've already had a female president. It was Mrs. Wilson. Haha. Bert Herbert, you are 40, no, I'm 37, and still living with your parents, while dressed up as a pirate. You are more retarded than all of these people. No, I feel great, actually. I feel great because I do not have to pay excessive rent or anything like that. I can be a boon to those people around me who I care about, and help to do work around here and do whatever the hell I want to do. This is my territory and my property as well, because it's me who's paying the property taxes. So I don't have to answer to anyone. If you have a problem with that, you can go kill yourself. I don't give a fuck. Have a problem with me, my dude. It's gonna be your problem, though. It's not mine. I'm living the life. I do whatever the hell I want to do anytime I want to do it. And it is wonderful. Jeremy Briggs, Down Syndrome Death Squad. You should look up Syndrome of a Down sometime if you want to see something really funny. Turtles Toy Books. Styx is definitely more retarded than me, and got more issues than Sports Illustrated. The latter part, definitely, I would agree with you on. Absolutely. But yeah, if I choose to live in my family household while I'm paying the property taxes and I'm making all of my own decisions and I have all of my own space, I don't see the problem here. I believe that's pretty much independence. Why the hell would I want to? Why the hell would I want to pay $1,500, $2,000 rent a month for something that I can get for a considerably lower amount while simply helping the people that I care about? I don't understand it. It must be some sort of weird proclivity. Syndrome of a Down, man. Heavy gun. Stop it, Sticks. You're making too much sense. Yeah, why not? If you can get along with your parents, and you're the one that effectively is paying for the property anyway, so, you can do whatever the hell you want. The fact that your parents are there, that's peanuts, right? You're saving a bunch of money. You get to do what you want. The hell is the problem? I just don't understand it. Uh, Sigil, it's very easy to say they did nothing wrong when there was no opportunity to do anything wrong. A modern equivalent would be importing refugees and hoping there is a terrorist in the group. Now, bullshit. Most of the people that were being interned were already citizens. They weren't foreigners. They were born in the country. The fact that they happen not to be white Anglo-Saxons means nothing to me. They were already citizens. They're due constitutional rights. It's as simple as that. But even you want refugees kept out because of cartel and terrorist infiltration. You're not as different from FDR as you like to think. No, I want to go after the cartel members, but would I say we need to intern every Hispanic in the country? No, of course not. If you're illegally here, that's one thing. If you're, a criminal cartel member or something, of course, that's totally different. If you simply happen to speak Spanish at home, I don't see the problem. I just don't care. Lemon curd, and your dad is a fabulous cook. Yes, there are fringe benefits too. I get homemade soups. I can make my own, of course, as well. Mine are better, honestly. Just don't tell my dad I said that. Cooking Inferno sticks. Who cares what they think? On many cultures, example Japan, homes are occupied by 3 generations. It's awesome. Yeah, same with Italian culture and stuff like that. There are only a few subsets of society, actually, that think that this is untoward. And I don't give a shit. I literally don't care. Other people's judging of me stopped working a very long time ago. I've become desensitized, my friend. Randall Flagg, happy Veterans Day, and thank Wilson for the armistice which he had little to do with since he was laid up with a stroke. Did you know that 500 plus Americans died the morning of the ceasefire for nothing? No, I didn't know that, actually. Doesn't really surprise me, though. Yeah. El Hal's read, small hat bankers don't want that. Yes, there are certain groups that don't want people to compact and become more efficient, save money, expand their dwellings and their land holdings and things like that. They want them to haul off the second that they turn 18 and go off on their own, run themselves into debt, and live off of ramen. No, thank you. I don't think that that's wise. I think it's retarded, actually. If you have the opportunity, stay with your family if you can, unless there's some other opportunity that allows you to parse yourselves from them and not become insolvent. Sigilstone, if we interned every Hispanic, there'd be far less fentanyl and child trafficking. Just saying. No, I don't think that there would be, because law of supply and demand. I think if we secured the border and we began deporting cartel members and stuff, that would definitely be positive, though. Yeah, I just don't understand why people have a problem with somebody living in their family home. I think I'm going to inherit it anyway, number one. Number two, I'm already paying for it. Number three, who gives a shit? I like my family. They're pretty cool. Who cares? You mean that I'm not a man if I don't decide to spend $2,000 extra a month on my own lodgings for absolutely no reason when I don't need them? Well, why don't I take that and I turn it into good food, or I use it in my garden or something like that? Something that's actually productive. See, this is what people get wrong. They think that it's some sort of status symbol to live on your own. Tell that to every person in Italy, or most of Asia and stuff like that. That'd be wonderful. No, thank you. I think I would much rather be close to my family, and I would like to save my money as opposed to spending it all on excessive rent, which is what Bidenomics has gotten us. And I would like to just have a good time. I got plenty of land. I've got all the latitude in the world. I can do whatever the hell I want. Why would I want anything more? It means nothing to me. It's all good. All I want to do is make videos, write books, play a few video games, Napoleon Total War once in a while, and, have a good time. I'm not interested in all that bullshit, Brett Herbert, a 40-year-old talking about how much he loves mommy and daddy. 37, actually. Yeah, no, I do love my parents. Don't you? Do you hate your parents? Do you wish that they would die? Do you have a problem with them? Why don't you tell them yourself? That would be funny. There is nothing wrong with being part of a close-knit family. No, Brett, I'm not 40. I'm 37 years old, actually. I will be 40 soon, though. Then you can laugh about that. That would be funny. I'm getting into a debate about my own age with somebody who doesn't know anything about me. I have sinned and fallen short. Also, I'm being distracted by the snow outside because actually it's no longer a flurry. That's a pretty competent snow. What can I say? I have a feeling I'm going to be drawn into a snowball fight. Yeah. No, you've got a blessing. If you've got parents that are willing to deal with your bullshit, then you've got a blessing. So go with the flow. You do have the right to have your own space and do your own thing. But, you try to help out, stuff like that. It's just the way that it works. At least, that's the way that I was brought up. I don't know about other people. Some people, they hate their parents and stuff. I don't hate my parents. Sigil, sniffing out cartel members requires waiting for them to commit crime, an expansive surveillance apparatus, or realizing they're all of one ethnic group and deporting the group. Pick your poison. You have to wait for them to commit a crime. You have to judge accordingly. Because if somebody does not commit a crime, if the only thing that they're doing is, being Hispanic or something like that, you can't just randomly arrest somebody and put them in a death camp because of that. Akpud's World. If it's better that you and your parents combine resources, whether that's money and services, and you can get along and everyone contributing, it just becomes an argument to insult somebody without the nuance. Yeah, I've always thought it's more efficient if people stay together as a family unit and possibly friends, distant relatives and stuff. If they pool their resources together, it's so much more efficient. Then they can all save up money for various projects and things like that. But the thing is that then they're not expending as much wealth. And that's why the powers that be, namely I can't say that on a YouTube video. Certain groups of people want you to go off on your own so that you can absorb as much debt as possible and consume as much as possible and waste your time on transit and things like that. Instead of allowing people to pool resources as part of a more tightly knit group, which is the norm, by the way, and has been for humans' history until literally the last few decades. To pool resources, so this person's got a car, that person's really good at this skill, that person's really good at that skill. They can form a little mini syndicate of sorts. If they have any means at all, they can reduce their cost, reduce their materialism, and make things more efficient, and they can get by more easily. But that doesn't contribute as much to tax income. That's literally the only thing that it's about. Taxes and trying to displace certain groups of people within this world. And so I don't care if people have a problem with the fact that I live with my parents. Perfectly fine. If you're retarded, you have the right to be retarded. Sigil, waiting for them to commit atrocities like raping someone to death, chopping their body up, and putting their pieces on display is one hard sell to the average person. I don't think that the average Japanese American was doing that back in the 1940s, just saying. Booby, damn. Yes, it is no longer I'm sorry, Bobby Bobbinson. You've been demoted to Booby Bobbinson out of necessity. Anyways, I'm going to go offline. I've been live for almost an hour and 30. I do have to get a little bit of food And I do have a bunch of things in the docket actually for later. So I've got to take care of those. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff that I need to do, like writing my book, among other things. So I will be back tomorrow with more news stories and so forth. I've also got to use the bathroom before I piss my pants. Some people here, including Bobby, would probably be into that if they saw it. That's about all.